Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, don't shy away from who you are and what you want, with Bethany Wright. We talk about being authentic without the fear of what others think, being willing to explore and experiment, and deciding she didn't want to be a fashion designer after cutting up her nana's clothes.
Bethany is a next step career coach at a female-oriented coaching and e-commerce brand, Her Empowerment Room, which she launched last year during the pandemic alongside her high-level marketing job. Drawing on her own savviness and experiences, she is on a mission to help ambitious women at a crossroads in their career to navigate their next step with clarity, courage, confidence and ease. Gone are the days of waking up to your alarm to seize yet another lifeless cup of corporate ambition to simply pay the bills. Bethany empowers women to redefine their path to success, whether that be a career shift or entrepreneurship, through the use of her signature FIRE process. Family girl first, Bethany channels the mantra women first, work second, each and every day. A musing inspired by the words of one of her biggest inspirations in the industry, Cara Owell.
Good morning to you, Bethany. How are you today?
Morning, I'm great, thanks. How are you doing?
We are just peachy, thank you. Always love recording a podcast, so thank you for joining us.
Of course.
Our first question then. So when you were little, not too many years ago,
Yeah.
Did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I think growing up, I've literally wanted to be everything. So when I was younger, I wanted to be a vet. I had a cat called Star and I loved looking after her. I was like, oh my God, I want to look after animals. And I took it so seriously. Like every time I would go shopping with my nana and we'd go to Argos and I'd literally get, the RSPCA trucks and any vet-oriented toy. I literally took it so seriously. But then that kind of died out. And then I remember wanting to be a fashion designer. So I got to my nana's and I was like, oh, I really want to be a fashion designer, Nana. And she'd just gone through all of her clothes, clearing a wardrobe out. And she was like, well, here you go. You can just play around with them. So while my parents and her were, having a tea and everything, I was cutting up these clothes. And then that day, that was where I binned it there. And then she was like, it's still a joke now that I literally cut up all of her clothes and then decided, actually, it's not what I want to do. So we still laugh about it now.
Oh, what age were you then?
I think I must have been about 10 or 11. And I literally just cut everything up because even though she was getting rid of it, she's still like, you literally cut up all my clothes and then the dream ended there.
It's like, nah, I don't like to cut up clothes.
Too much mess.
That's brilliant.
But I think one of the things that always kind of ticked away in the background was I always wanted to be in a girl band, which is so cliche, I guess, but I literally loved Atomic Kitten and I would buy all of the live concert DVDs. I'd play it. But even with films, I've always watched the behind the scenes first. I like to see how things are pieced together and see the final production. I'd memorize the dances and rehearse as though I was like part of Atomic Kitten, play it, get my microphone and literally sing and dance all night. My poor parents and neighbours, they must have been thinking, what on earth is going on next door? Mm-hmm. And then Hannah Montana came out. So I'd belt out Best of Both Worlds. And I can still picture now being in my bedroom, visualizing where the audience were, where's, backstage, where am I going to dance? And I literally knew every dance routine. So that was like one of the main things I wanted to do. I just loved the way that on the stage, the costumes, the way that they got to travel the world and that sort of like freedom and just having, all those people around you. And it's quite interesting now looking back because I guess I still sort of rock a stage in a way as a woman. It's just, giving people that space and holding that space for them to, I guess, unleash their star quality too. So it's quite interesting actually looking back and seeing how you never know what you're going to be, but you can connect the dots and see how that's kind of actually influenced the path that you're on now. So that's quite interesting to look back on.
I love that. We did the same, but this was like in the 90s. And me and my best friend, we thought we were part of Take That. So we knew every single dance move. We would like literally move the coffee table out the way and just go for it. And thankfully her parents lived in a bungalow because we were like a pair of bloody hippopotamuses.
Oh, and I used to get like shouted upstairs. My mum would be like, Bethany, you're banging so loud. She's trying to watch EastEnders or something, and there's me like clamping around dancing. But I loved it.
Yeah.
I still like get Alexa on now on a weekend, just sing around while I'm cleaning the house. And I love it. I love music.
Oh, yeah. We went just before lockdown, one of my friends and I went to karaoke and I was a bit tipsy and he got to choose the song. So I had to sing Whole Again, which is a really difficult song to sing.
Yeah.
On stage in front of a load of people in Cozy Joe's in Newcastle. It was bad.
Yeah. I don't have that high range. So like, God knows what I mean, even still now probably sound like, a cat screaming, but I used to love it. I would just sing everywhere in the shower. Oh, honestly, I thought I was going to be like in a girl band forever. So that was funny.
So how did you pursue that dream?
Well, actually, when I think it was my early teens, I started having singing lessons and I actually went through some grades and, done that. Obviously, I haven't carried it on. I kind of stopped around the time I went to uni. But I just kind of realized I had like stage fright. So I've always kind of been more shy and reserved. And I was like, realistically, it's not something I would feel comfortable doing. And I think life kind of happens. I was doing my studies. And then when I got to uni, I was just kind of like, well, what am I going to do now? Because I'm not going to be a pop star. So, I best get my degree.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And what did you then study?
I studied sociology. I really enjoyed that. I loved it. And I always, enjoyed sort of the feminist narratives and seeing how the social world was kind of constructed. And I guess from there, I always knew I wanted to do something with the women's movement. I just never knew what that was going to look like or how I would even do it. I think it's often the how, isn't it, as to your career, like how do I even do that? But then I'd done an elective module in marketing. And I was like, actually, marketing sounds fancy and I love creative stuff. I love social media. So I actually followed the marketing path. But then when I started to find the personal development world and coaching and came across that, I was like, that's how I'm going to help women. And that's, where my focus is going to be. And that's kind of how I started a female oriented brand. It was like, okay, so I just had to wait that out and, let it unfold. And that's when I found what I was actually going to do. So it's quite interesting to actually look back on that as well.
It is, isn't it? It's that you said before, connecting the dots, looking backwards.
Yeah. It's almost that ripple effect, isn't it? Because even if you're not consciously thinking about it or making that conscious effort to make that your career or something that you're doing, I guess it's always there playing in the background and it's always something that, you have that interest in. It's just when you find that thing, that's when you're like, okay, now I can link that into this. So now I see where that was coming from. You kind of bridge them all together.
I always find that really fascinating that you can't put it together going forwards, but you can looking in the rearview mirror. Yeah. And I like the idea of, in many ways, helping women to find their voice. And we're almost, with marketing, etc., it's no different to Atomic Kitten or the Spice Girls. A lot of it's marketing, how you present yourself, how you look, how you're perceived. Are you saying the right messages? Do they resonate with people? And finding your voice. So there's loads in there, I think, which is a really interesting mix.
Yeah, I think growing up, because I was always shy and I was never really sure of myself. I was always quite like, I lacked confidence and I never felt seen. I didn't feel heard. I just wasn't that girl at school. But then as I got older, it was like, okay, well, actually, you can be authentic and you can kind of create your own personal brand. And I think when you kind of break away from that school system and that status quo, if you like, that's when you're like, oh, actually, I feel more confident in who I am. And you start to find who you are as a woman. And that kind of leads you down career paths and where it is that you're going to go in life in general. So, yeah, I think that just really, it all is combined under one. It's just being able to, unleash that and be able to find, who it is that you are, what it is that you stand for, and, how to just own and embrace it. Because I think a lot of the time it's like, oh my God, but what are people going to think? But then I guess the bigger regret would be not being authentic and not being who you are because you're scared of who other people want you to be.
Yeah. It took me so long to find this stuff, and well done. For finding it so, I say early in your life. I don't know if that's the right word, but, I've really found school, university is all about adapting to other people, and being a good girl.
Yeah.
All of that sort of conditioning. You have to be selfless and you have to say yes to things, and you have to look after everybody else. And, I absolutely, love the fact that you're doing this now.
Yeah, I think you are always more impressionable, aren't you, growing up, and you're very aware of what girls around you are like. How do they act? How do they dress? And like with having frizzy hair and acne and, braces, I kind of always let that define me. But I think when I found the personal development world and started to invest in myself, and I'd done that inner work, it just really made me see myself as like more than what I looked like. And it was always a running joke that I always had my head in the clouds. And even with that, it was like, it's sort of telling you to get back down to reality and, stick to that status quo. But really from doing that deep inner work and just finding out who I am and, investing in myself that way, I worked out what the makeup of me was. And it's something that I realized, don't lose sight of that, because that's actually going to lead you and guide you to where you want to be, and just kind of trust that, that means that I'm never going to lower my standards. I might have all these high hopes and be that dolly daydream, my head in the clouds, but actually it's not done me wrong. And, you should never shy away from what it is that you actually really want or who it is that you are, because that's essentially what sets you apart. And I think especially with social media today, with LinkedIn or Instagram, people are more connected to that transparency and that authenticity, and people can see right through it, can't they? It's like, you can't pretend to be someone because people will call bullshit straight away. It's like, we know what's real and what's not. So
yeah. I was saying to James the other day, because there was one of the Kardashians was getting herself knickers in a twist about having a unedited photo out in the world, and she got all of her lawyers involved, and people actually loved that photo, and quite frankly, she looked bloody gorgeous in it.
Yeah, she looked amazing.
And it's just, why can't you let sometimes that veneer slip and let people see the authentic you?
Well, I quite like. I'd never really watched, so I follow Vicky Patterson on Instagram. I've never seen her in anything before, but she popped up now and again in different things, and I really, really like that she will post a selection of images. There'll be like, maybe there's 2 images that are really sort of, she's had her hair done, she's made up, looks very glamorous. And then the next one is the morning after.
Yeah.
Where she's doing double chins, she's got no makeup on, feeling rough as a badger's bottom. And
badger's bottom.
I'm keeping it professional that way. But I really like the contrast where she's showing that it's like, yes, I looked like $1 million last night, but today he's really what I look like. And I think that's such an important contrast to show, that I'm not always, I've got my team of makeup artists and stylists and designers and whatever else, and this is actually who I am. I'm just like you after I've been out on a night out.
Yeah,
and I think that's a great example to set as well.
Yeah, I do love how she kind of disrupts that message, and almost like that diet culture as well. She always is open about what she's doing. She always shares those images. But I think that's what connects us more with her, because, you see yourself in here, you're like, oh my God, yeah, if I open my phone down here, I've got the double chin and I look a mess. And I think that's also something that's being more encouraged for us all to do. Like, I think it was last month or something, I posted a photo where I was literally in bed on the pillow with like messy bed hair, no makeup, but I actually loved that photo because I had acne back in the day. I was like, I never thought I'd have that day where I wake up and I just love the skin, because it's almost like, if you define yourself by your appearance, you're never going to love the skin that you're in, really, because you're just always going to tear yourself down. And I think just putting those posts out like she does just really changes the narrative for social media. It just is encouraging, that ripple effect again of just own who you are, because we're all the same. We all wake up the same and we all do the same. We all wear makeup or do our hair. Like, it's part of life, and you can't hide from that. Like, we all do the same things.
Yeah. Bloody filters.
I know. Some of them are crazy.
I know.
They are. We did some funny ones last week, wasn't it? Where we got our haircut on Monday, wasn't it, when they opened up?
Yeah.
So Michelle gets Snapchat out, and I think I put it on Instagram, but doing it on Facebook, and it's one of those filters where it like increases the size of your mouth. Gave me very full
pink
red lipstick.
It's gorgeous.
Beaming eyes, and I put that out as had my haircut done today, and I feel absolutely fabulous. Just as a bit of fun. It was, people were loving it on Facebook, but wondered if I was changing my look in some way. But yeah,
honestly, some of them are just, they look so different to you, don't they? They literally completely change your face. And I remember one of my friends, she was feeling quite down about social media, felt less than. And I was just saying, the way that I do it is almost like that social media mindset of like, you know what it's there for, you know what's at your hands, just see it for what it is and think about, how do you want to use it and who do you want to follow? You can choose who you follow, you can choose, who you maybe block or the filters that you use and subscribe to. So I think as long as you're always aware of like, okay, I can use the filters or I can, present myself in a certain way, but that's not real life and that doesn't define me, then it helps to make it more manageable and less damaging. I think it is really about how you kind of approach it. And like, I had social media throughout my teen years, but I think especially now it's younger generations, like younger and younger people that are using it. And I'm really aware of like my mum's friends' daughters who are following me. So I think it's just having that awareness of kind of how you're presenting yourself and how you want to present yourself at the same time. So yeah.
It's I've got an 11-year-old and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
I don't want him anywhere near it at all. It's like, no.
Yeah. I think probably Instagram's the worst, isn't it? Because it's all images and, all the filters and everything. So yeah, it is scary. I think it kind of does take over your life and world, doesn't it, in a way?
Yeah, it can do. So let's take you back to university studying sociology, and then realizing that this sort of the women's empowerment movement, etc., was what you felt that your calling was.
Yeah.
What was it about that really hooked you in?
I think because with lacking confidence, I think at school there's always some sort of divide amongst girls and women growing up. You do kind of compare yourself. And I think because I'd always seen myself as less than or not like her and just wanting to be like that. And then obviously you have like the divides. And I think even if you watch TV shows, it's always like the it crew, like Mean Girls. And, there's always kind of them groups. And I think I just wanted it to be more of a place where it's more collaboration than competition, like what they're saying now. It was kind of, okay, well, it doesn't have to be that way. And I just like that, with the feminist theories and the way that it started, it was to kind of bring women together. But then when you look at your experiences at school, it doesn't really reflect that. And I thought, I grew up with 4 aunties, so we were all very tight knit and like really close. So I think just always kind of being around women and, growing up that way, it just made sense to me to kind of, follow that on. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't know, something in me, it just like lit me up. And I was like, okay, this is like your type of thing.
So with your aunties, were they part of your journey? Sometimes we have in lots of podcasts, it could be parents, it could be other family members. Were they supportive, say, in your journeys to what you wanted to do? What would you sort of say about that?
I always think of them as like my little bunch of cheerleaders, because my mum had me quite young. So one of my aunties was only 6 when I was born. So we're all really, like, I felt like one of the sisters. And I do have to say, like, they've always been really supportive and like always, trusting what it is that I want to do. I think my mum was always more the realistic one in a way, because obviously she didn't want me to, be let down or disappointed. She just kind of wanted to protect me. But yeah, they're so supportive. Even to this day, they'll like share things from my business page and everything. And, I think it was nice for them to see me step out and actually do something on my own, because out of them, I was the first to go to uni and just really, go for what I wanted. And I think they're kind of like, where did you come from? Because, it was just, I had my own vision of how life was going to be. And I always saw the possibilities and opportunities. And even though I felt like I had the potential, like I mentioned before, I didn't think I was that girl. But even my nana, for example, she would be like, you're your biggest, cheerleader for yourself, but you're also your biggest critic. So if I doubted myself, they're the ones who kind of picked me back up and was like, just go for it. Like, what have you got to lose?
That's great advice. So what did your journey look like into becoming a coach?
So it started a couple of years ago, really, because I was reading a book called Girl Code by Cara Alwill. And that was about female entrepreneurship. And she was a life coach, well, still is. And I just loved that book. And I was like, okay, that's something I would do. But I think you kind of, talk yourself out of it. It's not the norm. And, no one else is doing it. And I'd have to put myself out there and do something different. So I kind of parked it, carried on with marketing. And then I was working in Newcastle in a PR role. And I went on holiday and I picked up that book again. And I was like, when I first read it, it was like a 1-day thing. This time it was like, okay, it's a day one thing. So when I got back, it was so crazy. I was just on Facebook scrolling as you do on my dinner time. And I saw something for the Coaching Academy, like a free 2-day taster for Leeds. I was like, is this a sign? Like, should I go and do it? Like, it's crazy how it came up. So I went to that. And then from there, it was just, studying around my day-to-day 9 to 5. And just really, I invested in myself. I've worked with 2 or 3 coaches now myself, and just really doing that inner work. Because I always think you can't take people as far as you haven't gone yourself. And I was very aware of that from the start, because obviously I know my insecurities, whether you say them out loud or you don't, what's going on inside. So I was like, I need to fix my behind the scenes before I help anyone else with theirs. And yeah, just studied in and around my 9 to 5, and then just started to play around with Instagram and just, post things, put the feelers out there, set up my own page and start to build that community around myself as well of other women who are doing the same thing. And then obviously lockdown happened. So I was still having the coaching on a weekly basis, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give it a go. Like, what's to lose? I've got all this free time. I might as well just start it now, because I wasn't going to start until this year. So I was like, right, I'm going to start it now. And from there, I was just kind of doing my research and just kind of built these programs. And it was a lot of work. And I think, when they say like the entrepreneurship journey is like up and down, it's like a roller coaster. It really was. One day I'd be like, oh my God, I can't do it. Why have I done this to myself? And then the next day I'd be like, oh my God, I'm on top of the world. This is the best thing. But yeah, I think a day to day is just, even if I'm not working with the client that day, it's more just what message can I put out there to empower someone, and just thinking, how can I contribute to the coaching community, or just to, the power of women finding what it is that they want and finding the career aspirations and just leading a path that's fulfilling and a one that they love as well. So it can be different every day depending on, because obviously I still work my marketing job now, but yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So you've got, I like the way you've got that safety. Yeah. In terms of you've got a job, you've got that coming in, and then you've got this additional time. And instead of, we had a giggle about all of the lockdown binge watching we did before we started this podcast, but you actually took the decision just to get started with stuff. So
yeah. And I think the biggest test for me, because obviously when you start something, you don't know if you're actually going to like it when you start doing it on a day-to-day. But I think because I've still remained committed to it, even with having a 9 to 5, I mean, don't get me wrong, some nights I do just kind of park it and I'm like, right, let's just watch Netflix and, have that chill time. But the fact that I've committed to it every day still shows me that it's something that, is what I really want to do, and I love doing it. And I'd done a free challenge, how there was loads of challenges on social media at the time. I attended one by Abigail Horn, and she said something like, we're living part of history, so why not make your own history now? And that just really, spoke to me. And I think that's something that I've always carried through every day now, is like, make your own history. You live in part of history. So why not, utilize it and find the resource of time and do something that makes you happy every day, really.
Yeah. Because the time will still pass. So
yeah,
we'll get to the end of the year and then it's like, oh, I still didn't do that project or set up this business, and it's always, I think, give it a go. And if it doesn't work, well,
you learn something.
Try something else. And that's what I always admire. It's the courage to start something, and then in many ways, if we go back to the girl pants, it's like getting out on the stage and you're waiting to see what the response is, and you're not guaranteed to know what the reaction's going to be, positive, negative, bit in between. And it's, I guess, finding the right lyrics and the right songs.
Yeah, it's taking the metaphor all
yeah, I love
it. to find your audience. So, and the people that the tribe you're attracting, and I think it's a very brave thing to do in a time when there's uncertainty, and I like uncertainty in many ways because change is always happening, but to actually do something with it sort of puts you up there with people who are getting stuff done. So yes,
I think it was, you're kind of in your own bubble, and it's like you can't really see outside of yourself. It's almost like the world's still going on around you, but you're kind of, in your safe place. So I think that's what kind of pushed me forward more. It's like, take center stage, because who's around, to kind of put you down. And I think a lot of people don't start something new because they're scared of failure, or will it work out? What if I don't like it? But I always say to clients, it's almost like you've got to get your Dora the Explorer on and just like experiment and just see it as an experiment. And if you like it, then fab. If not, okay, well, you've tried it. It didn't work. Like, let's try another thing. So I think it is just, sometimes you just got to go with the word try. I think instead of, putting so much pressure on yourself, just be willing to explore and be willing to experiment, because even if it doesn't work out, at least you can rule it out and know that you've tried. And there might be some element of that makes you think, oh, actually, but I didn't like that part, but maybe I could do this, because then that's something I enjoyed a part of that, if that makes sense. So I think it always leads you to some place of, satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really funny you say Dora the Explorer. I've got a coaching client, and we do play around with what would Dora say,
Oh my God, I love that. How funny.
That was so funny. So what is the big vision for the future?
I think in terms of the future, it is just kind of building that empowerment hub for career-focused women. I think sometimes it can be kind of looked at as like, oh, you're a career woman. Like it's almost looked down on, or almost like, you shouldn't be so focused on career. You should want to have a family and everything. So I think definitely just to keep helping people find what it is that they want to do and create that hub, so that it's, that community where they can connect with other people that are going through the same uncertainty or, vision as they are. But also I'm going to be launching her empowerment boutique as well. So, slogan tees and notebooks, just something that can equip people on the journey. So whether or not they're, a coaching client, it's just, I've always loved clothes, even when I was cutting them up. And that's always something that I wanted to kind of bring into it. So it's just like developing the arms of the business and just, passing on that message, no matter how big or small.
Yeah. Do love a bit of merch.
Yes.
Like a bit of merch.
I'm literally a stationery addict. So I was like, if I can do my own, that would be fab.
I know. It's like, what do I want on stationery? There we go.
Yeah, literally.
So you always get asked this, like when you do any kind of business networking, but who typically are your clients?
Usually it's people that are in, the about 25 to early 30s is people that I've been working with. And whether, they're working in a corporate job or they're, thinking about starting their own business, whatever it is, it's always that sort of next level in the career. It's just they're not sure what it is, or maybe lack that confidence. So it's like, do I want a career shift, or do I maybe want to work for myself? Or, I want to be a leader in some way and take center stage in my career and, build something around that. So it's usually people that are really ambitious and, want more, but are maybe a bit afraid to say that they want more and feel stuck within that. Is like, I feel stuck in my job, but how do I do it? And what do I want to do? And can I say that I want more? It's almost, that like, they call it like a quarter life crisis, I guess, is like, what am I actually going to do with my life? And is this something that I'm actually enjoying? So they tend to be, the main pain points, I guess, of what they're going through.
Yeah. No, that makes absolute sense. So this is not one of the quick fire questions, but I'm desperate to know the answer to it.
Yeah.
So if you could, there's loads of famous coaches for women out there. If you could, spend a day with one of them, which one would it be?
I think it would definitely have to be Cara Alwill, just because it was her book that really sparked the coaching concept for me. And I just love her whole aesthetic. Like, she's so glamorous and like, I don't know, she's just so creative. And I there's something about her words and the way she words things and presents things that just really resonate with me and make sense with me, if that makes sense. Like, something about it just really connects to me. So I would love to spend a day with her.
Well, if you're listening,
give me a call. Set up a coffee date.
Oh, we love.
Yeah.
Cool.
And what about, it's not a quick fire question, but I was wondering, because when you think about the examples of girl bands that we've grown up with, there are good examples of how they've gone on from their identity as being part of a girl band to starting a family, having other ventures, fashion lines, lots of different things. Are there any that stand out for you as a good role model?
Good question. I think one of the main ones with girl bands in particular is probably Victoria Beckham went from girl band to like creating her own empire and moving into the fashion industry. And like, almost, that she was part of the Spice Girls, but it's almost like sometimes you forget about that. And she set herself apart and really just created something of her own. She's got her own legacy and, is, a highly praised businesswoman, I think. So I think she's probably the first one that comes to mind, is to using a platform and just taking the opportunity that comes along and being able to, follow your instincts and create something of your own that you're passionate about.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's who I was thinking of as well. But it's evolving identity, isn't it? So we could, a bit like you talking to clients who started in a career in something, just because that's been your identity does not mean that can't evolve, change, completely change direction. And that's what I think is fascinating with the space you're in and that we're in.
Yeah. There's so many facets to yourself. I think sometimes, we're guilty of confining ourselves in a box and think, well, I've done this thing for so long. And she was almost seen as like posh Spice, but, she took it upon herself and, those around her to really break free from that sort of role or character, if you like, and, become Victoria Beckham. So, she's posh Spice in her own right, but then you also know that she's Victoria Beckham in her own right too. So I think just, embrace every aspect of yourself and just, that'll take you places.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. So we're going to move on to the quick fire round now. So James, would you like to take it away?
Question number 1. What is expensive but totally worth it?
I would say a Chanel bag. If I could buy a Chanel bag, that would be my first investment, a Chanel bag.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Why not? Yes. Yeah. Last forever.
Yep.
I mean, maybe a holiday too. I'd love to go to the Maldives, but I think
that was our next question. That's so funny.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I'm on the ball.
You are. Like, can you read my emails? Yeah. So yeah, the question number 2 was, the world has opened up and you can travel anywhere. Where would you go? Maldives. Next question. Have you got any other answers?
I think I would love to go to more places in Italy. I love that. I just think it's such a beautiful place. I've only been to Rome, so I'd love to kind of, explore more of the country. I'd also love to go to Bora Bora, because that's quite similar to the Maldives, I've heard. And that looks so pretty. I just want to go everywhere, to be honest. I'm like, oh, where can I go? Bali, that's on my list. Apparently they have the best sunset. So I just want to go everywhere, to be honest.
Yeah. It's exploring. You get your Dora the Explorer on. There we go. We can't call this episode Dora the Explorer. No, we won't. No, don't panic. All right, James, let's ask the most random question we have in our 3.
Number 3. What is your favourite smell?
I would say it's probably a perfume. I'm just trying to think, and you've got a few favourites. I really like Love a Dose by Diesel. Love that perfume. And there's also a new one by Jo Malone. I can't remember the exact name, but it's like a poppy kind of scent, or it's like a red bottle and it's something to do with poppies, and that smells amazing. But then I also love the Yankee Candle in the shea butter scent. That is my favourite. I love lighting that and letting it spread across the living room. It smells divine.
Or Chanel handbags.
Yeah. Just spray my bags.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So if we could take you back to your 18-year-old self, Bethany, what advice would you give to you?
I think because I was always, and still am, I guess, the biggest dreamer, but also the biggest doubter. How I said I always knew I had potential, but didn't think I was going to be that girl. I think I would just tell her, you're pretty much all set and you will find your place and you are going to find your place. So as my nana would say, she once said this to me and it really stuck with me, is just put some lipstick on and brave the world, and don't let that world tell you who to be or how to live, and just keep your Dolly Daydream self alive, because ultimately that's what's going to get you to where you are now, and it'll all pay off in the end.
That is fabulous advice by your nana. So yes.
Yeah. She once said that when we were eating dinner, and I was like, I don't think you realise how profound that quote was.
Would you like to record that again while I take it?
Yeah. I literally got my notes out in my phone and was like typing it on the side, like, okay, I'm just going to pinch that.
Maybe that could be some sort of social media campaign you could do. Advice from my nana.
I know. I should get her to write a book.
Yeah, definitely. I'd read it.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Get her to do a legacy video.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, if you'd like to follow Bethany and see what she's up to, find her on LinkedIn, or why not go to Instagram and look for her empowerment. So I'm going to start that again. For her empowerment room. Well, all that's left to say, I almost didn't know what I was going to say there, but it's to thank you, Bethany, for joining us today and sharing your journey with us. It's been a real pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.